It's a beautiful day, and we want to begin by affirming, acknowledging, celebrating in a moment of prayer our sharing of space and minds and souls today. So let us be together as one. Thank you. Thanks for the gift of this moment, for the gift of creativity, for the gift of boldness that chooses more life. Many years ago now, a loved one, Marilyn, made a choice to live more fully, to let go of limitations, doubts, reservations. And as a result, life has spread out and continues to reach and create. So we celebrate the gift of this day, all that will occur within us and through us, and all that we are able to set forth with blessing in spirit and truth. Amen. Okay, so we're singing. If we have words on the screen, you're welcome to sing along. And if we don't, you're welcome to do whatever you want to. Oh, what a wonderful song to start with. And it is a bright, beautiful, sunshiny day. Let us join together in our affirmation of faith. And, I think I commented on this last week in the talk about a couple of different things about this that's so powerful. And Marilyn, were you part of the group that created this?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and that's been
One of the
eight,
times I was on the board.
yeah, 8 or 10 years ago probably now. And it never has had more relevance than it does in this day in which we live. So let us share together. Unity is a positive, practical, progressive approach to Christianity based on the teachings of Jesus and the power of prayer. Unity honors the universal truths in all religions and respects each individual's right to choose a spiritual path. We believe every person is an expression of God, and our thoughts have creative power. Inspired by Spirit, Unity of the Hills fosters unconditional love and acceptance by embracing diversity, creating an environment that encourages people to love one another and grow together. Thank you for this wonderful gift.
Peace. Celebrating diversity and affirming unity, I am a presence of peace in the world. Oh, I will say that again later. The road to world peace begins with my open hearted acceptance of those who are different than me. Our world is vast and diverse, and its people come from a wide variety of cultures and histories. The more I learn about those whose lives differ from mine, the more I can appreciate their perspectives and empathize with their struggles. When I make the decision to understand others, I discover that judgment fades in the light of compassion. Today, I sow peace through my acceptance and understanding. Peace in the world grows as I join my brothers and sisters in celebrating the glory of human diversity and affirming oneness in God. And from Isaiah 2:4, it's written, "Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore." And let's say together the affirmation. celebrating diversity and affirming unity, I am a presence of peace in the world.
And now, Marilyn, please. It is.
Off. I promise I won't come close to you. Most of you. And I've already had COVID and I've got the antibodies, so I'm perfectly safe. And so are you. When I started thinking about this talk today, the only theme that came to mind was forgiveness is just another F word. And I thought, I think that's too risque for church. I mean, it's too a little off there. And so I asked Donna, I wish that she were here so I could blame her. And she said, oh no, I think that's great. So forgiveness is just another F word. And even though that may be shocking, when we talk about forgiveness, so many times nobody wants to. It's like, oh. If I were to give a workshop, which as I was working this up, this is for a whole workshop, just to let you know. And we're going to do it in 20 minutes, right? And I thought, I have a lot to say about forgiveness. And when I do, it's like, if I were to give a workshop on forgiveness, I don't think anybody would come because they really don't like that. It's like, we know it's something we have to do, and we know that there's all kinds of things and ways that you can do it, and it's like, whatever. I don't want to go do that, right? Is that my earring that's rattling? Okay. Jewelry by Connie. Connie's actually here. you know, we have to think of the words that we use. And there are a lot of F words that are really great. Have you ever thought about words? I do. Frequency is one of the things that I love, which is an F word. I teach that in the Channelers Academy. Formulate is another word that is a fabulous word. Oh, there's another F word. Formulate. Can you imagine where we would be if science hadn't formulated the formula for penicillin or medication or all kinds of formulas, Albert Einstein formulas, all those formulas. Another favorite word of mine that is a new word that a friend of mine who is not here today, but I thought he was going to be here, is forte. It's like, forte. And forte is one of those words that I always thought that it was a musical term, just a musical term, but it's more than that. I actually looked it up in dictionary.com because that's my favorite dictionary now. A forte is a person's strong suit, a most highly developed characteristic, talent, or skill, something that one excels at. So that may have to become my new favorite F word. In music, it means to play loudly or strongly. And of course, fabulous is a fantastic word. And then there's finances. Which I am embracing. I am embracing because a lot of you have known me for 20 years. Some of you have known me for longer than 20 years that are here to celebrate my birthday. Yay! And, the financial freedom that we all desire is really one of those F words that I am embracing and growing with that message. I mean, do you ever think about your favorite words? I think I spent too much time as a kid because I had a lot of favorite words. And surprisingly enough, when I started thinking back at them, a lot of them were F words. I've listed several already. I have 3 basic personal favorites. Let me see. One is feedback, which is just knowledge, and we're going to talk about that again in a minute. Another is forgiveness, which is cleansing toxic poisons from your system. And freedom, which is attainable, even financial freedom. I'm sure freedom is attainable. One actually leads into another. You see that feedback, in my work, most of you all know that I'm a channel, and I channel a Council of Beings of Light with a spokesperson of Adironda. And many years ago, Adironda started talking about F words and said that feedback was just an F word. And I'm like sitting back there going, wait, what are you doing? What are you talking about? But we think of failure, which is also an F word, right? And we think when we have failure that... have you ever had failure, experienced failure? I've experienced a lot. How many businesses did I create before I started what I'm doing now, which I've done for 20 years, which I failed at and felt miserable at it. And how many times did we fail in a relationship or felt that we failed in a relationship because we just couldn't seem to be the person that we perceived that other person wanted. Did you pay attention to the way I said that? It's because many times our perception in the way we ought to be in a relationship has nothing to do with what the other person is looking for or expecting, but because we feel that, another F word, we feel like we can't be that person, then we fail. Well, that failure is really just feedback, which is why feedback is one of my favorite words, because there is no such thing as failure. No such thing. You cannot fail at anything. Isn't that cool? There is only feedback, which means that you have a different way of perceiving the information that's coming in. And that's why feedback is really just knowledge. Absolutely knowledge. And in electronics, feedback gets positive and negative feedback. And if you walk too close to a speaker with a microphone, you get a lot of feedback, right? And that's great. And sometimes our friends give us a lot of feedback, which may be kind of like the speaker giving you positive or negative feedback. Because you see, if we perceive all feedback as negative, then that limits our own beliefs, right? And most of the time, feedback is really just that. Feedback is like a learning experience for us, which is why that's one of my favorite words. So feedback is simply information that provides us with a greater advantage of any situation. I felt like I should read something from here, you know. I wrote it. And then we have, you know, another favorite F word. What is it? Oh, forgiveness. This is how most of us think when we think of forgiveness. You know, it's like, no, don't go there. Well, you know, it really makes a huge difference when you do learn to forgive. And we were talking, some of us yesterday, also, this is also the way people have a tendency to think of forgiveness. It's like, no, I'm not going there. Or they think that they failed, and instead of turning it into just feedback. Do you know that your flashlight is on? Oh. Oh. That's fine, and it can be. But, you know, it's really a lot about taking into account what it takes for forgiveness. Yesterday, I have some friends into town, and these friends are very wise. I've known them for many years, and some of them for a few months. And but we were talking about, because I kind of have a tendency in my brilliance to leave my talks and my information to the last day or two before I prepare it, which is a nemesis of some people. But it has to come in when it comes in, right? We were talking about forgiveness yesterday in the car, and one of my wonderful friends, in the wisdom that she carries in the cells of her body, said, well, forgiveness is really an indigestible morsel. Now think of that. Now that may have come from something that she discovered somewhere, I don't know. But think of an indigestible morsel. And I had to stop and think, what the heck is that? When you think of an animal or a dog or something that eats something, and it becomes indigestible in their system, like a bone, what happens? They die. They get sick. Well, the same happens with you and forgiveness. Forgiveness, if it becomes that indigestible morsel, that indigestible thing that festers and boils and beats inside of you, you get sick. And maybe you die. I mean, we all die eventually, but anger, the primary cause, emotional cause of cancer, is unresolved anger, right? The primary emotional cause of a kidney disorder is not letting go of old family issues. the primary emotional cause of allergies. Does anybody have any allergies at this moment in time? I mean, my eyes have been watering for 3 weeks. uh, but the primary emotional cause is irritation to one person or one thing. So, which says that there's some indigestible morsel there that you're not willing to look at, that's keeping you sick, that's keeping you unhealthy, that's keeping you stuck where you are. Well, stop it. Just stop it. I mean, what horrible situation have you ever experienced that you simply can't digest? We teach, Joy and I teach a plurk shop. Play plus work equals plurk. Plurk shop called Everything is Possible. And, you know, one of the sections is on forgiveness. And the people that have taken that plurk shop multiple times, they always dread that section when it comes up. It's like, oh, they feel kind of like this. You just like don't want to deal with it. You know, but the way we talk about it, it stimulates a necessity to cuss and discuss what is going on in your world. And most people, especially spiritual people, don't want to go there. They absolutely don't. Or, you know, what happens is when you don't forgive, it actually creates a physical blockage in your world. A physical blockage that holds you back from what you would like to achieve. And, you know, what do we want to achieve in life? What do we want to do? We want to be happy. Period. End of story. And any way you do that is perfectly fine. But happiness is the end result. And if you're still carrying around that fumigation of a morsel inside of you, then there's some part of you that's not going to be happy. So in the plurk shop, as we have spiritual people, mostly in the plurk shop, they push against that. You know, they are we are really good at glossing over any difficult situation. Any argument, any betrayal. You know, betrayal is actually the strongest form of a problem that someone can have is a betrayal. It creates more anxiety, more stress. Actually, when you go through betrayal, scientifically, it creates this chemical in your body that works against your good health. Did you know that? Google it. I did. Google knows everything. And I've listened to other speakers, and it creates a chemical reaction when you have somebody that betrays you and you do not forgive. Once you forgive, that chemical reaction dissipates. Who knew? I mean, that's brilliant invention, wasn't it? They knew, he knew, she knew what they were doing. So, you know, but the key is the emotion of that chemical reaction, the emotion of that trigger point is still just feedback, isn't it? It's still just something that you can say, well, is that true? Is that true? Is that true? Probably not. You know, without acknowledging it and forgiving it, unfortunately, the emotion, as you know, is still there. It is still a part of that energy that creates complications that lead to physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual challenges. Forgiveness, or lack thereof, is really nothing more than a bone that is stuck in your own digestive system. And nothing good will ever come from it. I mean, we all know that we have people that we need to forgive. I actually made a list of some of them. So if anything here like trips your trigger, then good, good. Your ex-spouse, if you have one, or ex-relationship, or ex-boyfriend, or ex-girlfriend, someone who has wronged, betrayed, or lied to you. Pamela Thompson in the 7th grade, who really made fun of you and made everybody else make fun of you. Your first grade teacher, who singled you out for something that she said or he said that you did wrong, or maybe didn't do wrong because you were in the 1st grade and you were 6 years old and you really didn't know what was wrong or right. Or that rapist that took away your childhood. Or your best friend that moved away just because their dad got a better job. Or that murderer that changed your life because they murdered your child, your brother, your mother, your father, your sister, your neighbor. Or the argument that you had with someone, though you were convinced that you were right, you were not going to forgive them. Or yourself for making the decision to go into that particularly destructive relationship. Whatever. Now, please note that I made that list very specifically because I included things that seem trivial and things that might seem really not so trivial in the whole scheme of life. But do you know that your chemical content in your body knows no difference between the anger that you hold against Pamela Thompson and the person that took away your childhood? That's why forgiveness is so important. It just is. And yet, even though we get that feedback when we're a child, that stuff that comes up, or that feedback when we go into relationships, or that feedback in puberty or whatever, big or small, those indigestible morsels, which thank you for that wisdom, those indigestible morsels still have exactly the same impact on you, which just shocks the stuff out of me. You see, those morsels are things that you carry around with you. And you know when you have a challenging situation or a challenging relationship and you can't seem to forgive, that you have a tendency to then select people, or the universe brings people to you to give you another opportunity to forgive it and to get over it. And it's like, how many times do we have to go through the same situation over and over? I know that you've all heard all this information before, but this must be what we need to hear. Anyway, Eckhart Tolle says in The Power of Now that forgiveness, or the lack thereof, creates more toxicity in your life than any old habit may. Yes, we know that. We know that we have to forgive everybody of everything, right? We know that we have to forgive the unforgivable. We know, as light workers, as people that are awake, that not forgiving keeps us the victim. It keeps us in victim consciousness. And victim consciousness is not where we want to be. We know that the act of forgiveness, I started to say the simple act of forgiveness, it's easy, but it's not simple. The act of forgiveness will release you from the physical, from the mental, from the emotional toxicity that has kept you poisoned and reacting to life as opposed to responding. I know have you gotten the point here? Do you get it? And now the question is, okay, good. So what do we do about that? Well, I'm going to give you 5 ways to forgive. And some of these are old ways and some of these are new ways, to me anyway. Because we can choose those situations. We can choose what we want to hold on to, what we choose to hold on to as indigestible morsels. or we can really choose to do the soul work to heal them. And when we say heal them, we really mean who? Heal ourselves. Because that's the key. Unless you are willing to forgive all people of all things, what's going to happen? You will carry those morsels of poison around with you, and they will affect your body chemistry forever. You know, our discussion yesterday in the car, we know that we must forgive everything, but we still hang on to stuff. I mean, you know, and stupid stuff that comes up. You know, whether it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 3 years ago or 30 years ago. They can be so stupid or so ridiculous. And if you share that situation with an emotional impact, then there's still something there to forgive. Did you know that? You know, yesterday, Joy's not here, so I can talk about her. There was, in the 10 years that I've worked with Joy Roby, she spoke last Sunday, or a couple of Sundays ago, 2 Sundays ago. And she was brilliant, wasn't she? For 3 years, she did not travel with me. And I thought, and I mentioned that yesterday, and I felt emotion and a little resentment pop up, and I thought, oh dear, I have to forgive that. I thought I'd already taken care of that. Because that forgiveness morsel just pops up at the most inopportune times when you're supposed to be this enlightened person, and here you are stuck in the big pile of contrast of lack of forgiveness. It all will affect you. But it's kind of like, we know this. It's like people that smoke cigarettes. Does anybody here is a smoker? I don't want to insult you. You know it's not good for you, right? You know that. When you drink too much and when you have an intolerance to alcohol. I mean, I don't care how much you drink, but some people actually have an intolerance to alcohol, right? My son. But he still drinks, even though he knows that it's going to make him sick. Or eat too much. Even though we know that it's going to make us unhealthy, we still do that. So, you know, it's the same way with forgiveness, right? We know that we have to do that, but we just can't quite get there. It's way too easy to justify, well, it's an unforgivable situation. Well, there's no such thing as an unforgivable situation. I know, it's like, you are given this situation so you can evolve, right? And forgiveness is not a religious concept. It is a practice. It is a practice that releases those chemical toxins from your body. Because Source, God, wants you to evolve and be as healthy as you possibly can be. Forgiveness is releasing the perceptions or beliefs that produce that poisonous venom that eats away at your body. So there's 2 people that you have to forgive. One is everybody that you perceived wronged you or you wronged them, and yourself. And I think it's easier to forgive other people than it is myself. You know, in reality, all forgiveness is self-forgiveness. All forgiveness. In actuality, unbinding yourself from a perception that has caused a problem, or even to a degree, something that has harmed you to yourself or your knowing, when you're harming yourself, you're harming everyone that's around you. And you're harming God, because you are all one. By not forgiving, you are accelerating that harmful emotion, that poison, that indigestible morsel in your system. And when you keep repeating those thoughts over and over, well, I wouldn't want to forgive, but this happened and that happened, and your cells, every time you tell that story, believe that you're going through that same situation again, which just kind of pisses me off, and I have to forgive myself again for that. It's like, wait a second. But your cells don't know the difference. They don't know the difference between Pamela Thompson that talked about you in the 7th grade and the person that murdered your best friend. Your cells don't know the difference between those two betrayals. So that's why you just have to make a blanket thing. There's all kinds of affirmations you can do for forgiveness. I found one that by one of my friends, because I met him once and talked to him, Michael Beckwith, and my little ego loves that. I take responsibility for my actions, and I forgive myself for all let me start again. I take responsibility for my actions, and I forgive myself for all that I have knowingly or unknowingly done to hurt myself or others. I release myself from the bondage of unforgiveness. I am free. Guilt, shame, and blame are now neutralized, which will saturate my heart. I begin afresh in this world, free. And if you want that affirmation, email info@adironda.com, and in the subject line put affirmation from Unity of the Hills Church, and I'll email that affirmation to you because it's really good to practice it. I wanted to put it on my mirror because it's so beautiful. He's so eloquent. But you see, guilt, which happens with unforgiveness, has no transformational value. Shame has no transformational value. Blame has no transformational value. And you get the opportunity to have transformational value in your life by letting go of guilt, shame, and blame. It doesn't mean that you have to saddle up with that person and be friends with them or be friends with somebody that used and abused you. It doesn't mean that you have to give them permission to re-enter your life. It means that you are free from the indigestible morsel that you were holding on to. Forgiveness is not a way of denial or a way to bypass the emotion. And that's what a lot of spiritual people do, is they think it as a bypass. Well, I don't have to deal with that emotion, but the emotion is still there. Well, that's one of the keys to true forgiveness, which I didn't put on this board, is first, you have to give yourself permission to feel what it is that you're feeling, to feel the betrayal. You have to give yourself permission to feel it. And in my work, we do say feel it. And we say you can tell that story about those feelings 3 times. Once, you can tell the story to get the emotion out, the betrayal out. Twice, you can tell the story to your friend that's going to go, oh, I know, and is going to sympathize with you. And the 3rd time, you tell the story to get rid of it. A couple of weeks ago, Joy talked about ye old story flip, where you change the story, and that's fine too. But then after you do that, you still have to forgive. After you feel those emotions. So this technique is a very strong, simple technique, and it's as easy as you want to make it. The first is, let me see if this is going to work, willingness. Woohoo, look at that. I am willing to forgive. Many years ago in my work, Adironda said the words, I am willing to forgive XXX, whatever, my first husband, my second husband, this person, that person, my 17th husband, whatever. I am willing actually wills that into place. Later on, somebody read it in the Silva mind control book, and I thought, oh, somebody wrote a book about that. Did we inspire that? No, it was written way long before we came along. but it's still true. I am willing. If you repeat that phrase 1,000 times a day, that willingness to forgive gets into the cells of your body, and you'll realize that you forgive. Now, you can also practice it. Some of the experts that I read in preparing for this said to practice it 5 to 15 times a day, saying, I am willing to forgive XXX. That didn't work for me because my anger was way too deep, way too deep. It was those unforgivable things, and I'm not even going to tell you the stories about that. So I had to say that phrase over and over for 7 days, 8 days, when I was driving in the car, when I was washing dishes, when I was not watching television but staring at that box, when they used to have boxes, when I would go to sleep saying, I forgive Michael Hannah, I forgive myself, I forgive myself. I had to go through that, and it was a lot. And then it was like all of a sudden I could breathe. I could breathe, and I realized that I had forgiven a lot of myself for choosing that. You have to practice, and you have to be willing to see things from a different perspective. To see things that, we humans, we're so entertaining. We're just dear folk, aren't we? Sometimes we do some of the silliest things. Sometimes everybody else does some of the silliest things in our own ignorance. Habits, programs, molestation, all of those things are passed down generation to generation, just like cutting the ends off the ham because the pan was too short. It's the same thing, right? And if you don't know that story, Google it. It's there. So you have to be willing to see things from a different perspective. See what's happening there. And these are the two that I find are really the most challenging that came to me in my meditation. And I thought, what? What? I have to do what? Well, you have to wish them well, or wish yourself well. You have to send them love, because it's all about love. But that is the cue that you have actually forgiven. And then you get to take that one step further and do something symbolically that will physically, energetically, consciously send them good energy. It's like, I have to do that to my ex-husbands? Yes. Yes. And yes. Because until you do, until you're willing to do that, until you're willing to realize that you brought those people into your life so you can learn to forgive. You brought them there so you could forgive yourself for creating that wonderful situation. And then you say, is this true? Well, they are there for a reason, right? So, yes. And this is the key that actually shows you that you never have to go through that kind of a situation again, is to actually do something consciously. Write them a note, send them a $1 in the mail. If they've passed away, write the letter and send it to, the afterlife in the post office. Somebody will get it. And because that's the physical act that shows you that you have completed and digested that indigestible morsel. So I know that was a little long, but we're going to take a little meditation right now, if that's okay. And we're going to bring up some person or situation that you get the opportunity to forgive. And we're going to forgive them. Is that okay? What are you going to do? I got the microphone. And Terry, thank you, Terry, for your service. You know, you do such a great job. And Chuck, God, absolutely. Where would we be without Terry and Chuck and Buddy and Dorothy and Norma and and Marcia and all y'all? So just take a deep breath. And just breathe into your heart. And as you breathe into your heart, we've talked so much about forgiveness. I'm sure there's some person or some situation or yourself that you would love to wrap with that forgiveness energy. And just bring them up before you. Just visualize them or yourself in front of you. And imagine that person or situation right there. And with your inner eye, look into their inner eye and call them by name. Take a deep breath and allow your heart to radiate that coherence, that joy. And as you do, just breathe into these words. And you can use their name or your name or that situation. I am willing to forgive. I am willing to forgive you. I am willing to be free of this morsel of energy. I am willing to be free, and I'm willing to see you free as well. Just breathe into that statement. I am willing to be free and see you free as well. I am willing to be the next great version of myself, free of all the old stories. Free of what happened or did not happen that seemed to determine my destiny. Breathe into the vision of your own destiny. I am thankful for this particular situation or person or myself because it volunteered to help me evolve. I am willing to accept that all is well between us. I am willing to let it go and let love have its way with us. I breathe into love that heals all. As we do breathe into that love, we realize that we love most is ourselves. And that it is now safe to love ourselves. Take a deep breath. And when you're ready, open your eyes. See, that forgiveness really breaks the chains. Which brings us to my third favorite word, freedom. You know, freedom helps you be who you are. Freedom is what you were here to do, to know, to have, and to learn. And it's possible. Because everything is possible. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I think I have what I need to carry me through the next week more easily. Thank you. And thank you, Terry. You're a one-man orchestra over there. Incredible. I want to mention, for those of you that may not have done your income tax this year, you're in for a nice surprise. They've graciously decided to allow us, when we've donated to our spiritual community, up to $300. So, I didn't know that until we're sitting with our tax preparer. So, what I want to let you know, and you in Zoomland, if you have contributed a check in whatever form, PayPal or whatever, up to $300 or more, and you need us to give you some information about that so you can go do your taxes, please call the church number and we'll make that happen. If it's less than $300, there's no benefit, but if it's $300 or more, there is that benefit for you. And I'm quite comfortable that you will know what best to do with your money. So please take advantage of that. From now on, we'll be prepared for that. We'll be keeping a little different form of that record so we can very easily gather that information. But let us know if you need that from us, and we will give you that information, okay? And thanks to all for the many gifts, the many contributions that enable this spiritual community to be here. This has been a life saver, so to speak, in my personal journey, and it has been the path that many have crossed and connected through. So thank you for being here and continuing to enable this expression of love and life and being. The last thing I want to say is this is the first Sunday of the month. Happy birthday, Marilyn.
Thank you.
Dorothy has a birthday coming up, the 12th.
Birthday?
Anybody else have a birthday or anniversary or anything in March? Okay. Well, we celebrate you if you are out there and you're celebrating this month for any special reason like that. So, yay. Think we're ready to what? You want to do another song? Okay. We get to sing, I think.
Can we stand up?
Oh, yeah. So you stand up, you can dance, whatever you feel like doing. Now let us share our prayer of protection together. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is. Wherever I am, I am. Yay.
1, 2,